All right, Light Camera Barstool movie review time. Jeff D'Lo alongside Ken Jack, who's in he went to Germany to go see A Haunting in Venice. He wanted to get the
Yeah.
European experience for this movie.
Want to be as
And
close
Gooch.
as possible, geographically speaking. For the
Yep. You couldn't actually get to Venice, but you're like, you know what?
It was all sold out in Venice, obviously. They love it in Italy.
We are talking about A Haunting in Venice, the third movie in the Murder on the Orient Express, Agatha Christie franchise from Kenneth Branagh, which is still going.
Question: What do you call this franchise? What is this franchise called?
The wordiest franchise of all time.
We call it the Hercule Poirot series.
Yeah.
Hercule Poirot parentheses Agatha Christie. So it really rolls off the tongue.
It's like the Sony universe of what is it? The Spunk Sony Pictures universe of Marvel characters.
Imagine being like, "Hey, you want to watch a movie? Like, what are you going to do? Like, oh, I can bring over the HP movies." It's like, oh shit, dude, fuck yeah! It's like all right. Let's rope up some Harry Potter. Like, I meant Hercule Poirot.
Hercule Poirot, his series of misadventures.
So here's the cast for this movie. It's not as like crazy of an ensemble cast as other movies. Though one very recognizable person movie. Kyle Allen, Kenneth Branagh, back as Hercule Poirot, Camille Cotton, Jamie Dornan, Tina Fey. A few other names in there, which I won't. For the sake of spoiling, I won't reveal all the names of who's in it. Michelle Yeoh in the movie, though. Bunch of people. Third movie in this franchise. Very different, though. A much more horror-based murder mystery film. Maybe not exactly as much as a trailer might have suggested, but like definitely tried to play it up and give you a different vibe here, which I do think worked. I do think it worked a little bit. Here is a synopsis for the movie. Now retired and living in self-imposed exile in the world's most glamorous city, Hercule Poirot reluctantly attends a seance at a decaying haunted palazzo. He soon gets thrust into a sinister world of shadows and secrets when one of the guests is murdered. Murder on the Orient Express came out back in 2017. Ken Jack gave it a 62. I gave it a 63. Death on the Nile came out in 2022. Came out last year after, I think, maybe some delays. I think it was caught up in the Armie Hammer stuff as well. We didn't despise it. Ken Jack liked it less, gave it a 58. I gave it a 63. I think this is the best of the bunch by a pretty good margin. I actually quite enjoyed it to an extent. I think it's fine. It's average. I must say that. It's like very average for me. I gave it a 74 out of 100, but I did like enjoy it for what it is. And I wish the other ones would have done something like this where like they have a different bit of a vibe and a feel that breaks them out of the mold of like the whodunits, which Knives Out did very eloquently, did very well. And even Glass Onion, if you didn't like Glass Onion, but like I like Glass Onion. I think those movies did something different. And this feels like this was more of that vibe, where they tried to make it a little more interesting, give a different style and twist, because the other two, they weren't horrible movies by any stretch, but they just felt so dated. They just felt like they were ideas from so long ago, where this one felt like it was released at the right time. So that's my initial score, my initial thoughts. We got the pros and cons after you guys give your scores.
Yeah, Matt, I'd probably agree with you that it's the best of the bunch. It's still like a 67 for me. Like I would rate it at exactly the same rate as the first one and not really much higher. And I think part of that is being jaded by those first two movies. Like it is for sure different from those two, but man, I just don't give a rat's ass about Hercule Poirot and his adventures and his little maladies that he gets himself into. I just don't care. And I like that this was like, they made an attempt to do something a little bit like, I don't know, like even an attempt at something interesting or engaging, because neither of the previous movies really had any of that. But like it has the same sort of problems that I think the first two have as well, which is like very slow, very just like a drag, very boring at points. Like when they get into like under the horror element stuff, it gets a little more excitement, which bumps up the score in a major way compared to something like Death on the Nile, which was just bores. And some of the performances were definitely a little bit better across the board as well. But like other than that, it's just like, what do I come away with this movie being like? This is why you got to go see Haunting in Venice. Nothing. I'm not recommending this to a fucking goddamn person I know or care about, unless they're over the age of like 70. I'm sure that they would have.
I was about to say like a 70-year-old who just sits around watching Murder, She Wrote reruns. Like
if they're in adult diapers, I will definitely say go see it. You'll have a great time. But other than that, like I'm not going out of my way to tell anyone to go watch this. Aggressively okay movie. that looks better relative to the two worst movies before it.
Let's definitely talk about where you'd recommend it in pros and cons, because I'm curious. Like, there's definitely a level to where I think you would, but I agree with everything you just said, even though our scores differ a little bit. Gooch, your score?
I'm going to land right at a 70. I was kind of going back and forth between like 60 to 75. I think it's a 70. It is easily the best of the three, and I think leaving the theater, I was like, well, if this one had come out first, would I have wanted a sequel? I think that was the big question I had on my mind.
It's a good question.
The answer is no. It's still no. It's still no. I don't want to see a fourth. I wouldn't have wanted to see a second from this. It's fine. It's a fine whodunit, but it's still just lacking that next gear to really engage you and have you have your mind. Like, that's the biggest thing with a whodunit. By the end of the movie, your mind should be blown and you should be sitting there like, oh my gosh, it's just not there. Like, you're just like, oh, okay.
You need your mind to cream. So your mind has to be creamed at the end of a whodunit, like fucking what we call, not Glass Onion, but Glass Onion to a degree, but also more Knives Out more so.
Yeah, it just wasn't there.
Let's talk about some pros here, because we did. I think we lean closer to that than we do cons, but it's pretty much split down the middle. I think the biggest pro is that they did at least do something different here. Like, I don't there's an audience for this, maybe, like these types of stories and these types of books, and I think it's an older audience for sure. Anything. I mean, first of all, the name Agatha Christie is the oldest name of all time.
That's the oldest. All it's missing is like a Barbara thrown in the middle or something.
Actually, her middle name's Miriam.
There we go. Never mind. All done.
I'm just kidding.
It makes sense.
But the thing is in terms of stories, like a mystery and a whodunit is I mean, all genres are old, but there's something that really makes these types of things feel so old, especially in the age of phones and technology. That's why Knives Out is so brilliant, is that it avoids all of that, and it uses modern day stuff in a way that you would go, oh, okay, I didn't realize a story like that could work. These are obviously from an older time, post-war, pre-war, around those. That's where all these movies take place, and it's fine, and as is, it's good and it works. And you can still have those things as Clue type stories, but you need something that kind of brings it to the present day and has at least a little relatability and connectivity, and if not even relatability, a vibe or an element that makes it feel different. And that's at least what they did with making it a little spookier and making it different, of hallucinations and ghosts and ghouls and shit, that it at least gives it a bit of a mix up where you're like, okay, this isn't some cookie cutter shit that I would have tripped over looking for books in third grade, right? This isn't a book next to the Sherlock Holmes book, next to the the Magic Treehouse books. That's what I think the difference is, because Murder in the Orient Express and Death in the Nile both had that problem. Especially Murder in the Orient Express felt like it was made 50 years ago and they waited to release it. That was the vibe of that movie.
Where was Hercule Poirot during World War II? He had some big mysteries going down. This guy was just tired. He hung him up.
He went to Argentina post-war.
When the world needed him most, especially after World War II, there was a lot of people out in hiding. I mean, Israel could use the hand out there, hunting some of these guys down. He's like, no, I must retire. I cannot chase down these people. It's like, you had a lot of work to do. And you hung up your cleats.
Yeah, real
time to ever be detective.
Real fucking convenient exile time there, Perot. Yeah, real.
Very convenient. I think it was 1947 or something like that. It's very interesting time to just hang them up and not want to be around anymore. You had a lot of trials to attend. You had a lot of stuff going on.
Also, Kenneth Branagh's character in Oppenheimer, pretty mixed up with everybody at that point.
Yeah, had a lot of problems too. That's a great point. Kenneth Branagh just loves playing guys that should have been places, should have been helping the right people, and they really weren't.
Yeah, just always in the wrong place at the wrong time during World War II. Very interesting.
Yeah, he's just following Hercule Poirot.
In Oppenheimer, Kenneth Branagh played Niels Bohr, but in this movie, he just played Bohr.
The Bohr, yeah, that's a good one. Just the Bohr.
I don't even have a ton of pros. I think none of these are terrible. That's the thing. We review terrible movies. They're always well made enough, but they're just, the stories lack, and it just doesn't have a punch that something like this needs. Like there needs to be a humor element. There needs to be something that is, at least they added something different here. But I think it's kind of different pros. I guess.
How do we feel about Tina Fey in this movie? Like she was clearly there to be comedic relief. Like, does it work?
Because it wasn't like
there were the olds.
I think
the olds in my theater thought it was the funniest movie of the year.
I love Tina Fey. Tina Fey in 30 Rock's like one of the best roles ever. But like, I think she's fine here. I think it worked in the sense that it didn't ruin the movie. But I'm not sure it worked in the sense that she was like some star character where you're like, yo, Faye in Venice? Crazy.
She kind of had that accent from Shane Gillis' special, you know, when he's like, yeah, every white dude talked with like a mid-Atlantic accent, like, yeah, see, Jackie Robinson coming up to bat. They all talked like that until Jackie Robinson hit his first home run. Then they all talk normal again. It's literally the night, and again, the years almost line up here, so it's very funny.
Yeah, you hit a home run.
Yeah.
We're gonna focus on computers.
Yeah, that was so funny.
Also, it was shot well, by the way, Jeff. I think that was a big agreement there. I like the set. The set looked good, and looked cool. Kyle Allen, the one guy.
Let's talk about cons, though. Let's talk about negative, because I do kind of want to. You both mentioned. Gucci said you wouldn't see a fourth one.
No,
Kenjack, you wouldn't suggest it, and I was thinking about like when I'd suggest it, and I think I'd suggest it like very niche, like late fall to winter. If someone wants a mystery, maybe I'll say this after I've asked if you've seen Knives Out, Clue, like a bunch of other things first.
Christie movies going on right now. That's when I would recommend it. Yeah, there's.
Hey, Kenjack, I'm looking for a movie. Like a fall vibe, like an Agatha Christie vibe. Well, let me tell you what.
A movie set in 1947 starring a detective in Venice. Do you have any recommendations by chance? Yeah.
I'd recommend Scooby-Doo reruns before this. Like, if you want that vibe.
It's like, weird.
It's not the worst movie. That's the thing. It's really not a bad movie. It's just like, who was this fucking for? Like that, it's just for old people.
It's the same thing, kind of like
yes.
For the first movie, I was like this is I cannot watch the first. What was it, Murder on the Orient Express or whatever? I can't watch the movie and be like, wow, this is some unwatchably bad piece of shit or something like that. Like, no, this is it's a passable movie. It's more competently made than a lot of movies we have to see, unfortunately. But like, there's nothing exciting or like very like I don't know, explain like valuable. You know what I mean? The EPA of this movie, not great. He's a very average EPA. You know what I mean? Like this thing's hitting, even if it's like ERA, or they're throwing the ERA. This guy is 450, something like that. It's good. Nothing to get crazy excited about though.
I thought the supernatural elements were cool, but they gave up on it so quickly.
Yeah. I think there needs to be more. That's a good point.
And so absolutely gave up on it. Where it's like, maybe if you make this a little bit more vague instead of Hercule Poirot, just disassembling like the entire, Hercule Poirot, whatever. Just completely breaking down like the wall on that and making it very, very absolutely clear that there was nothing supernatural going on. If you leave a little mystery there, at least there's some excitement left as you like sputter towards the end line. But that last 15 minutes is just like, okay. All right. I guess there's nothing really happening. Yeah.
Yeah. I think leaning into it more might have kind of separated into something even better too. I think you're right. I think it was almost like they were like, well, we want to keep it similar to this Agatha Christie style, but we don't want to upset the apple cart too much.
Yeah.
Or it's like, you probably could upset the apple cart more than you wanted to.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Probably could have elevated it to a different level. I mean, the problem is it just feels so cookie cutter and so of a different time and not in a good way. Again, at least giving some different elements here and changing things up and making it, have not just that straight and narrow. Again, it's the supernatural stuff. It's the ghost stuff. Like giving it a horror spin helped it a lot. It did make it much better, but they just still lack. They're just missing something. They're just not fun. Like mysteries should be fun. Like they need to be more enjoyable. Like they don't need to be so serious. And they try a little bit more here, but man, like Murder on the Orient Express is so not fun. and I don't like really rate movies on fun, but for some genres, you kind of have to. And I think that one, that's where Mrs. Lord. 74 for me. I think it's a big step up from what Kenneth Branagh did with the previous Hercule Poirot, Agatha Christie movies. Haunting in Venice is something that I would say is enjoyable, but still, this series falls well short of the mark they're trying to hit.
You know what I mean? It's one of those things I agree. And I'll just reiterate from myself from the start. It's like an impossible movie to recommend, except for a very specific clientele of old people or people that are looking for Agatha Christie-based movies based in a certain time period, I guess. But other than that, like it also is relative to what is out right now, which is really nothing. There ain't shit out right now. So sure, if you just like, hey, I need to see a movie, like yeah, sure, go see Haunting in Venice or whatever. There's worse movies to watch on streaming or whatever like that, but just kind of a bummer. Same as the other, at the very least, first one. So 67 for me.
Yeah, like I said, I don't have any desire to see any more. Like this is fine, but it didn't spark any interest in the character or the franchise. I will say, I wanted to get this in on pros. The Kyle Allen character, the guy who kind of looked like Joseph Gordon-Levitt, officially putting him in my my small list of actors I'd like to see play Batman in the DCU.
That's a big leap.
Jesus.
Yeah, no, that guy looks just like Bruce Wayne. I want it, like a young Bruce.
Young Bruce
He's
Adventures.
in my mix.
So yeah, 70 from Gooch, 67 from Kenjack, 74 for me, varying all kind of in the same range. The GameStop movie, Dumb Money, is not wide yet, though I did see it and I enjoyed it quite a bit. So
is Dave actually in it?
Yeah, our boss is not filmed for the movie, though. That I do know. I think it is going to see Dumb Money, so we will review Dumb Money when it goes wider, which I don't know when it goes wider.
If I remember, it has a really weird release schedule. I think it's like 2 cities, and then it's limited, and then it's wide. I think it's like a 3-week expansion or something.
Yeah, expanding in a few weeks. And then I think next week we're going to review Expendables 4, a.k.a. Expendables.
Expendables, yeah.
Yeah. So that's it. I guess if you want to see Agatha Christie shit, go for it.
What a glowing endorsement.
Hard pressed to find a better movie for that lead theater.
That's it for Ken, Jack, and Gooch. I'm Jeff Lowe. We'll talk to you next time.